Let's talk to a representative from the GOP. Senator
has been looking at the big numbers behind the boy wizard. Julie.
You have your tickets yet, Mark?
You know what? Would you like me to admit it on the air? Because I will. I haven't seen any of the movies.
Oh, my gosh.
I've never seen one of them.
Well, I'll admit it.
Not one.
I have my tickets for tonight's showing, and
Do
I'm
you have your
definitely
glasses
not
too?
alone. I have my glasses, but not on me. I'll show them to everybody a little bit later on. So $43.5 million, that's how much the movie has already grossed between midnight and the morning showings today. A lot of people already have seen Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So $43.5 million, that actually already is a record if you look at sort of the Thursday night into Friday morning grosses. And some analysts are saying that this could be the biggest weekend ever for any movie, especially when you count the 3D and IMAX showings, which obviously cost more for folks to go see. None of the Harry Potter movies, by the way, has ever cracked $1 billion in sales. So this would be the first time, and already analysts are saying they're confident it's going to do so. The franchise, by the way, is already the biggest movie franchise ever. If you look at sort of of course, Star Wars is huge as well. So let's talk about all the different ways that Harry Potter has made money. It's obviously not just through the movies. Movies, $6.4 billion. We already mentioned that number. A lot of money we're talking about here, and I didn't want to leave you out here, Mark. Now you can see the glasses.
Julie Hyman. Julie, thanks so much.
Stocks, in the meantime, are regaining some ground today, but investors are still concerned about the debt situation in Europe, many wondering if Greece may end up in default. One of those investors is the manager of the world's biggest bond fund. We're talking, of course, about Bill Gross. The founder and co-CEO of PIMCO joins us on the phone from his office in Newport Beach, California. PIMCO manages $1.1 trillion in stocks and bonds. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Your note was interesting reading, to say the least, and you say in your note that some credit and equity market vigilantes are wondering if this situation will end in default. Are you one of those folks? Do you think it will indeed end in default, the Greek situation?
Well, I think in some cases.
Well, we've got more on Bernanke's Jackson Hole speech right now. For that, we turn to Steve Blitz. He's director and senior economist at ITG Investment Research. He is with me here in the studio. Steve, good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
So is there anything that Ben Bernanke can even do at this point to address the economy? You know, well, speaking of GDP, of course, we had the 1% revision of the revision to 1%, I should say, for the second quarter. That does not look like a recession, at least not yet. So what buys him a little more time? Is it just that things could be worse? Obama is expected to speak soon to perhaps introduce some new measures on the economy. Politically or not, just in terms of what the Fed does and what the president can do, is he in a better position now than is the Fed in terms of fostering job creation? QE3 is the right thing to do? Blitz is senior economist at ITG Investment Research. Some of these other countries that you mentioned, and not just Southern Europe, but other nations in Europe generally, trying to get out ahead of debt problems, trying to already make cuts. In the case of Greece, they're perhaps too far down the road. But do you think that these other countries are doing it soon enough?
Well,
as well, not just about what's going on in Europe and debt levels there, but you also mentioned the U.S., and you say in your commentary that investors, including PIMCO, have strong doubts about U.S. fiscal deficits leading to strong future growth rates. So, I mean, what do you see in your crystal ball, so to speak, about what's going to happen here in the U.S.? You're certainly not alone in expressing concern about deficits here.
Right, the United States.
Apparently, though, I mean, are we the sort of the best of a bad bunch? Apparently, last month, you all actually raised your U.S. Treasury holdings.
Right, I think that's the case. We're the cleanest dirty shirt, as you suggest. And
timing here, because on the one hand, you say this Greece situation could play itself out over the next several years. At the same time, as we know, rates are eventually going to go up here in the U.S. Maybe early 2011 is what folks are talking about now. So are we looking at perhaps the remainder of this year that the Treasury run could last, or shorter, longer? What do you think? There, unfortunately, Bill Gross of PIMCO. Thank you so much for joining us.
Julie Hyman from International Paper's headquarters in Memphis with a look at what's in store for 2011. Julie?
Mark, thank you so much. And John, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be here, Julie.
We just heard Stu Keenan talking about rising food prices around the globe. And on your conference call today, you talked a little bit about rising costs for you, fiber costs, chemical costs in the first quarter. Can you talk to me a little bit more about your outlook for what's going to happen with your input costs, not just in the first quarter, but for the balance of the year?
Well,
for containerboard to be delivered in March. What is your outlook for how much prices are going to be able to go up, not just for you guys, but in the industry?
Well,
and on the demand side, do you expect that we're going to continue to pick up?
I do.
I'm curious, packaging being the largest segment of your business, what are some of your largest clients, either specifically or industry-wise, to give us an idea of what it's telling us about the economy?
The food business.
A little bit. I want to talk about M&A activity a little bit because in your industry as well, of course, we had a Rock 10 saying it's going to be acquiring Smurfit Stone, and there has been some talk about analysts about your company being a potential target, maybe a private equity target. What's your reaction? What's your sort of openness to these types of deals? I'm unfortunately John Faraci, the CEO of International Paper. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you, Julie.
Mr. Faraci, thank you both so much.
We read a lot, and I mean a lot, of market notes and analysis from money managers, economists, and traders. But we should mention one note generally stands out, and today especially it stood out. I'm talking about the note we get from Kenny Polcari. He's a managing director at ICAP, and included in his market notes are recipes that Ken says go along with the trading mood du jour. And today, Ken's recipe is for French toast. This is why I'm here. So, Ken, let's talk about the market side of your recipe. First of all, French toast. Obviously, a lot of eyes have been on France as the week has gone on here.
Listen,
Then it does like breakfast.
Listen, it needs to be Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream. It's very important because Haagen-Dazs is so rich.
Believe it or not, Ken, here on set in the Bloomberg studios, I wish I was down there with you, but we have the ingredients for Ken Polcari's French toast. We have the Haagen-Dazs ice cream. We have the banana bread. Ready in the pan. We have eggs. We have a lot of butter. And we're ready to go.
All right, so here's what you do. You got to break the eggs and beat them, right?
Ken, I think I know what all of our viewers are going to be doing tomorrow morning, and boy, are they going to need it. I think some people may be putting rum on this French toast as well in the morning after the week that we have seen. I know our crew is going to come feast on this stuff. Unfortunately, we don't have Julia Child's set, so we can't do it to the full extent.
The next time I'll give you my Grand Marnier French toast recipe.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Ken, thank you so much for bringing a little bit of sunshine into what has been a very difficult week for many folks. Ken Polcari down at the NYSE. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Well, it's pretty positive, Mark. Essentially what we saw is that last year, as the sort of feeling about a potential double dip started to come into the marketplace and come into business sentiment, we saw a dip in sentiment as expressed by the Business Council survey. Now it's improving once again. So in the latest survey conducted in January, the market improves as we see those economic indicators, like you mentioned, improve. You are seeing the CEO's sentiment improve as well. In addition to that, if you broaden it out to the broader U.S. economy and ask these folks how confident are they that the growth can continue. And who are we talking about, by the way? Well, there are hundreds of CEOs who are in attendance at this meeting. Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan, for example, is the new chairman of the Business Council, so he's here as well, Mark.
Julie, does all this confidence mean that they're going to start hiring finally?
Well, that's a good question, and it doesn't sound like hiring is necessarily going to pick up significantly. Some other questions were posed to them on the economy and on job creation, and the CEOs say that they think that on the economic front that they do see an acceleration in hiring. That sounds great, right? But it's about the same as the last survey, so it doesn't necessarily represent a pickup in hiring. What would they need to see to have a pickup in hiring? 90% of them point to increased demand in the economy. So the economy would need to expand even more in order for hiring to pick up more significantly, Mark.
All right, Julie Hyman joining us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Julie.